We can take a few questions if you'd like, or we can just do sharing.
Either one is fine with me. Questions and sharing.
Okay, let's do both. Let's just do about 8 minutes of questions and then we'll just have a few minutes of sharing. So, you share a very short question so that many people may share questions on practice or anything.
Hi, mine is so lovely. Thank you so much for your share. It is greatly appreciated. Right now I find myself in this spiritual axiom, the one where we create life. You know, I'm in life, I create life, I am a part of life. And then the other one of I am the creation of life, I am a part of life. And as the great Zen master that was once presented with a baby, do you know the story?
Sure.
Of a girl down the way? She said that he was the father, and he wasn't the father in the end. But in both cases, when he was first presented with the baby, he said, "Ah, is that so?" And then when it was then said to him, "Whoops, sorry, our daughter made the mistake. It actually wasn't you, but it was the butcher down the street." He then also said, "Ah, is that so?" And so the problem is when you want to create, and also you want to be a part of the matrix, if you will. You want to only be in the flow of what life would present. How do you balance the two? You know, where the acceptance of life and also creating in life at the same time. And not creating against the grain, because whenever I do that, boy, I head up on a door, whoop, wrong way.
Well, the urge to create is just one of the things that happens to you. If you identify more with that, that's one way to think about it, but actually when the urge to create arises in certain people, that's just the urge to create arising. It's like somebody has an urge to be an auto mechanic. That's terrific. Not everybody has that urge. It just arises in that person. And other people, it arises in them to want to create a certain kind of thing. Some people, it arises, they want to be a painter. It just arises. It does not belong to them. It just arose there. And then Sangha is so important, you know, in the life of the Sangha. It allows these things to come out. There's a harbor for it in a Sangha, but then you say, oh, you can say, this urge has arisen in me to drop everything and move to Italy. And then your Sangha friends would say, hey, I don't know about that one. But if they say, if the urge has arisen in me, I really want to be an auto mechanic, probably they would say, that's interesting. Why don't you take a few steps toward that? And then you also are double checking. You keep waking up with that urge and it feels wholesome. Any kind of creation is the same. It just arises in people. You cannot make yourself have those urges. I could not make myself want to do certain things. It might cross my mind. I might notice that somebody else has suddenly had the urge to, I don't know, skydive, and it crosses my mind. That urge would never arise in me. So when the urge arises, you hold it, you sit with it, and you see where it takes you. But we do tend to identify with our urges a little bit too much. We take responsibility for them. But just pretend it's got a life of its own. Anything else? Yes.
Did I hear you say that Shakyamuni needed a push to start teaching and that it came from his mother?
I did say he needed a push. They say, the stories are that the thought crossed his mind that people would not understand the way he was saying things. You know, he said, I and all beings wake up. And it did, they say that it occurred to him that no one would be able to understand this. And something encouraged him to start teaching. And from the point of view, if wisdom, if the perfection of wisdom, Prajnaparamita, is the mother of the Buddhas, then I think we do say that she sets in motion the wheel of Dharma. So I was sort of fancifully saying that wisdom starts turning, and then people realize they have to speak from that place. So he had to speak from that place. Similar to us, you know, it will start turning, and we find ourselves speaking from a place of helpful wisdom, skillfully. And then the Buddha spent 40 more years speaking skillfully to people in ways they could understand. Just like we, when we want to give advice to somebody, we try to be skillful and use ways that they can understand. So that motion, it was set in motion for the Buddha.
What if you're a really stubborn cook?
There's a koan about that.
Or-
Yeah. There's a koan that this one Tenzo, and cooks are really valued in Zen monasteries, so they go, in the old days, they would go around from place to place, you know, itinerant monks, and then they would find out that they were a cook, and they'd often be invited to stay, because it was such an important role. And this teacher asked, Dongshan asked this monk, I forget the name of the monk, but he was famous, maybe Shui Fang, Snow somebody. What would you do if Manju Shri, the Bodhisattva of wisdom, showed up over the cooking pot? And Shui Fang said, I would hit him with my stick, my ladle. Don't bother me, I'm cooking.
Thank you.
I hope that was the right advice. Yes.
Thank you for your words and your presence.
Mm-hmm.
What I have is a response I had to your speaking, and I'd love for you to comment if you care to. When you talked about the koan of picking up the entire world, and you talked about mentally visualizing that we have expanded into the vastness of space and are looking at Earth, I had an image or a sense of how that expanded state where things shrink down to be smaller is sometimes where I reach in meditation. For example, I sit down with a problem or a task, and as I meditate, something happens and it shrinks, and I see it from a more detached, calm, perceptive place and get a great deal of relief. And I treasure that because there's a tendency in dealing with everyday life. For example, I'm starting a job search now. There's a tendency to be in little mind, and the task becomes very big, very critical, very urgent. And so any comments you have about going to the big mind place, quote unquote, to experience calmness, centeredness, letting the Buddha in.
Yeah, that's good, that's good. Yeah, big mind is good. And in fact, a Tenzo needs to cultivate big mind, which is generous and sees things in the correct perspective. So the cook, the head cook, approaches the world from that big mind point. And so they have correct perspective on issues. They also have a grandmotherly mind, so the mind that wants to take care of everybody appropriately. And then they have a kind mind, which is different than grandmotherly mind, kind mind. But you know, and that's good. What you're doing is cultivating that mind in you, big mind, grandmotherly mind, but you also can cultivate big body. So your whole body can become a field of calm patience, because you're taking your body out there into the job search world. We take our bodies out there into the world. And sometimes this body can become a very reactive body, kind of a defensive, reactive body. Everything causes it to feel threatened sometimes. You can notice that if you think about it. Wow, my body's quite reactive. Even when that car gets close, I think it's intruding on my space. But you can also have a calm body, a big calm body, and take it out there. And when things hit it, it's like hitting the mother or the grandmother. Oh, it's okay. Things hit a softer field. But, fill your body with breath. Relax all the core muscles and take it out there. See what happens.
The more practice, the better, right?
Definitely. You get more sensitive.
I just would like to get some ideas from you on resources for reading.
Uh-huh.
We all read all kind of books. Like, when people come to you, what do you recommend for people to understand easily, or even some difficult things? What would you recommend?
What are you interested in?
Everything.
Yes.
I've started reading Beginner's Minds, and then I got Moo. Does your dog have Buddha nature? And there's just such a difference between those two. I can get this, whoa. So just kind of general reading.
I'm sorry, what's your name?
Julie?
Julie, and for Julie too, have you read Thich Nhat Hanh's book, Transformation and Healing?
Not yet. It's on
Oh,
my
it's
list.
so excellent. I would recommend that. It's a fundamental, very important Buddhist text, an ancient Buddhist text called The Four Foundations of Mindfulness, but with such psychological astuteness. Very, very useful book. And so you get a double gift there. You get introduced to a very important ancient Zen text with this very modern, sophisticated commentary. So I use that book. I use the teachings from that book all the time.
Say the name again.
Transformation and Healing.
His list is this long.
I know. I would go to that one though. It's
Okay.
red.
Thank you.
It's on my shelf right there. You're welcome. But again, for all books, what I recommend, and you have books in your bookstore, and what I like to do is just open them at random and see if I resonate, and then I'll read it. Or I usually read them from the middle back.
So I have one last question. I was thinking of asking this just one-on-one with you tomorrow, taking a nice morning walk, which I love. I love taking morning walks with Zen teachers. But I thought for the benefit of the Sangha, I'd like to ask you this question now, which is how can a Sangha facilitator like myself best take care of a Zen center or meditation center? And how best can the members of the meditation center take care of the facilitator?
Good question. Of course, that's something I think about from time to time. Let's see, well, what would I say to you tomorrow? If we were alone, what I would say is it's the most fun thing in the world because we have to be so creative. And we have to be able to turn and adapt to the fluctuating needs of the Sangha, of the community. And that requires this tremendous, constant observation of what's really happening. So I think the way, for me, what I would say is, first we have to try to be really honest about what we see. So we don't look out and see, in my case, I don't look out and see a bunch of black-robed monks. I look out and see a bunch of people dressed in white. It's so cute. But you see, this is how everybody dresses at our Zen Center. So then I think, well, what's the feeling and what should we do? And I think that's what I do at my Zen Center. I look out and I see who's in the room and I think, oh, what are we going to talk about today? What do we need to deal with today? And then everything is adapted to what we honestly see happening. And then it's important for the members to honestly say what they want to do. Honestly say what would help them in practice. And then that's like Prajnaparamita, that turns the wheel of the Dharma and it brings forth what we need to teach. So honesty is very important, even though it feels awkward, you don't know what's really true sometimes, so we just keep experimenting. And I would ask, let's see, Joe, do you feel like saying how the Sangha can take care of the facilitator?
I think in terms of providing as much support to the teacher as they can fit into their normal routine. And there's a tendency for some to stand apart from the Sangha and maybe not contribute as much as they should. So from the point of view from the Sangha, you need to go to the teacher and you need to see where the support is required. Gaelyn came to us when we were a small group meeting in a Unitarian church, and she reoriented the group. And there were some lean years there where she really didn't get the support that she needed. But now, I think as the Sangha strengthens and she's supporting the Sangha, it's really begun to grow. And there are a lot of people contributing, but it requires a sacrifice, especially in terms of personal time.
Is it worth it?
In my case, yes.
I hope so.